Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm going to try to keep this as concise as I possibly can. I found that responding with my face rather than with my keyboard is a better way of representing my point of view. So, yeah, I'm going to try to be, again, I'm going to address each of you individually, but also um, try to be concise. I would like to focus on the overlying psychological impact that this image has and is having on public perception and why it's popular. I really personally do not believe that the weight of our entire history and all of the problems associated with what's going on in our culture is light enough for these two individuals to bear. And I think that everybody participating in this conversation, broadly speaking, should keep that in mind, that this 16-year-old kid and this, I think, elderly Native American man, neither of them can shoulder the burden of our entire society. And we need to keep that in mind. We're projecting everything that we think is wrong with our society onto this image, and that's understandable. There's a lot of feelings, a lot of emotion associated with this. So first, Becky, you said if you have to hire a PR firm to defend your actions, you're being sold something. My initial response to that, I think I stand by. I don't think that public relations is a common thing in all public interactions. So, for instance, I think Nathan Phillips, when he went on television, was probably prepped by someone in a green room. I'm sure he was wearing makeup. He's probably talked to, and there was some sort of rehearsal, because here's something I'm learning as I'm getting into videography and photography, is that actually everything behind a lens, everything that's captured by a lens, is in some way manipulated. And that's a big game changer for me to understand. I never realized how much manipulation goes into practically everything that you see, including what I'm about to share with you in this video. I'm going to run it through and that's about all I can say on that. My publicist told me that's all I can say. Fred, you're talking about the look on his face as to what it means. Again, projection, I think, to me, it looks like when I was a kid, what a kid like that looking at me meant was, what are you going to do? It's the look of a bully. I think that's kind of what you're saying here. But he's also, it's at the same time, there's a lot of things that you can project onto the subtle sort of mischievous smirk of a teenage boy. And then moving into the race dynamic. Now, I may have misspoke as far as saying that it's not as important. It may not be. You're right. It might be the one thing about this that's the most important. I don't know. I have always, in the abstract, considered people to be people, and so I have to apply a filter rather than like trying to dismantle a filter. I've actually gotten lost in conversations trying to have conversations with people about race, because I grew up in like multicultural situations. I have roots in, as you know, Fred. I mean, you were with my mom for 15 years. It's strange to me personally to have to apply a filter of, oh yeah, most people don't have the experience of interracial and multicultural upbringings. So they have to, like, it's new for most people, and I have to like apply that lens. When other people are looking at this image, you're probably right. There's a high concern for for what it means racially. So I agree for the most part. I don't know if the, and also thank you for commenting. Thank you everybody for commenting. I didn't, even take into consideration the power dynamics between slaves. Like, that's what good conversations are for. You get to learn something from the person that you're, what they call your interlocutor, the person that you're having the conversation with, or the debate with, or the arguing your point with. It's good to have conversations with people you disagree with. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying I disagree with all of you. I do disagree with you on certain points, but not fundamentally as a human being. I'm sure that we have different perspectives. I'm certain that we have different perspectives because we're human beings. And that's fine. That's absolutely fine. So thank you. Jesse, if you shine the light of public scrutiny on any human individual alive right now or historically, literally any human being who's ever lived, and didn't find something morally reprehensible about them or their actions at some point, think literally anybody, including Mother Teresa, including Gandhi, including there are aspects of even like the most upheld and uplifted and celebrated people as having done things that you would think that they shouldn't do because they're basically our heroes, right? I'm not trying to equivocate these kids with our heroes, but what I'm saying is that you can look back and find instances. So you can go back 1 hour prior to this event and find these kids screaming something, or you can go back probably 3 years and find that one of them, you might even find one of them saying racist, actually using racist slurs. I don't know. I have no idea what these people are up to. But as far as what's contextually like relevant to this situation, we all have the ability within us to go against the grain, let's say. And a kid wearing a MAGA hat is essentially that. They're like, it's a big middle finger is what they're doing. And they're being assholes. I don't know that their behavior 3 years ago or 1 hour prior necessarily has to be incongruent with their behavior at the rally when all this stuff took place. So, like, digging up aspects of their character, and which, by the way, is it the point of digging up these signifiers of their character? Is it the point to justify your hatred for them? Are you digging also, just to be fair, digging for, like, acts of kindness? Just out of curiosity. Like, are you looking to just find the bad things about them as a person, as an emblem, as a symbol, as a symbol of whatever it is you're projecting onto the situation? Or are you genuinely trying to find out and investigate them as a human being? Michael, we engage a lot, and as far as like digging in and having like trying to project the whole load of civilizational mire that we're stuck in onto this specific problem, we could go for hours and hours talking about the ways that this symbolizes some aspect of historical disenfranchisement, etc. That's a really vast, we're going to have to take a couple of courses in logic, and anyway, and my kids are on the way. So let's just leave it with, Michael, you're right. There's a lot of problems in the world. Another thread from another left-leaning, she says, disrespectful little shits. Yeah, that's right. That's what I would say. And if I was like their parents, which I wouldn't be because I don't plan on raising disrespectful little shits. But if I was their parent, I'm sure, and if their parents were there, I'm certain they would have grabbed them by the ear and said, "Get over here, you little shit. Like, go apologize to that man. Like, you know what I'm saying? There's nothing outside of the realm of a lot of, really basic things going on here. And the fact that it's become this spectacle is bizarre. It's actually, we should really step back and think about, like, how many times did this sort of event or this sort of occurrence take place that day? Like, if you really think about it, protests happen all the time, and weird interactions between people during protests. I watch protests all the time. By the way, I keep a tab on everything that's going on. Like, really, really pay really close attention. Charlottesville, I was watching live as Charlottesville happened. I don't know how many of you can say that. For 5 straight hours, I was watching live on YouTube, multiple live YouTube feeds of Charlottesville as it was actually happening. That's how much I pay attention to what's really going on. I try to keep myself informed. And there's a lot of shit that happens, especially when people get riled up and go protest. I bet you $1 million that this is not the only situation like this that took place at the Capitol that day. It's probably one of, I would bet, thousands. But we took this tiny little snippet of that day and we're extrapolating it out to this enormous, like, okay. There was a disruption. I'm gonna wrap this up. I don't know where I was, but Callie, while you agree that there's more to the full videos than what was shown in the shorter clip, I wouldn't describe this kid as an admirable character. Okay. There's a lot more. There's a lot. I don't want to be hyperbolic, but there's literally the thousands of times more context, because it's a 2-hour versus a 2-second clip, right? Of events and aspects to this situation that, if they were presented in the beginning, I would bet that you wouldn't hold the position that you're in if you didn't take latch onto the first image, right? And then have to backpedal to accommodate the bigger picture. If you saw the whole thing, you're like, oh wow, there's a lot of shit going on here. I don't know if you actually, just correct me if I'm wrong. When I said, so let me go one by one here. When I said admirable character, I mean that the response, the PR formulated response, demonstrates admirable character. So these are the quotes that I selected at the top of this post, are examples of things that are an admirable thing to say. They're not divisive, not deliberately incendiary. They're examples of how individuals, any individual, if they were to be said by, if the statements were made by anybody, no matter what, in any situation, if you say, I'm not going to comment on the words or the account of this person because I don't know him and would not presume to know what is in his heart or mind. That's a really profoundly good statement. Not just because, and I'm not saying it's because this kid, it's probably whoever wrote it, not this kid, right, had a good idea in mind, which is, it's important to venerate the character of the individual. It's important to show respect to the autonomy of the individual and to not make assumptions about them based on anything. To get to know them. I said this in the previous post, it takes hours and miles of intimate relationship and conversation to get to know somebody. Certainly to get to know them well enough to know that they deserve to have their family's lives threatened, right? Like, is that where we're at? Is that you can put a label on somebody and then conveniently place them in a box where they ought to be murdered. I hope that's not where we're at. So, admirable character is a character that is something that is worth pursuing. An action, an activity, a moral characteristic that is worth acknowledging. Goodwill. Again, his actions I'm not talking about. I'm talking about specifically the response. Because the response is the consequence of it's the results in a linear fashion. You have the thing that happened, which was shitty, and you have the response to the thing that happened, which is redeeming. The look on his face is not one of goodwill. It is a look of I've escalated the situation to the point where you want to do something about it, but you can't. What I gathered from the video, people were rightfully pissed off about the sea of MAGA hats. Fair enough. It is, as alluded to before, the red hat is a rebellious thing. It's an act of, well, shit. At this point, I'm not gonna say that. My publicist told me I shouldn't say that. It's an act of rebellion. It's. I gotta say, it takes a lot of balls to wear a red hat. Now, is it a good thing? No. Is it something that I think you should do? No. If I saw somebody in a MAGA hat, I would want to have a conversation with them. I wouldn't want to punch them in the face. I'm not a violent person. I'm a pacifist. I don't think that you should react emotionally with violence towards anybody, ever. Ever. Nobody should be violent towards anybody. Everybody should peacefully and diplomatically sort out their differences. If I saw somebody with a MAGA hat, I would want to have a conversation with them and get to know them and understand why it is that they support Trump. Because there must be a reason. If they're a human being, which I regard a person born with, human DNA to be a dignified human being, regardless of where they come from, regardless of what they look like, right? So, rightfully pissed off about the sea of MAGA hats. That's a position that you can hold. They shouldn't have confronted high school age children, yes. But a MAGA hat, at this point, is pretty universally upsetting wardrobe choice. Yes, it's it carries moral weight. The kids retaliated by doubling down and yelling Trumpisms that they heard from their parents. We'll see. Now, this is my position, is always to take into consideration what it is that you can substantiate. There is, at this point, no evidence of anybody saying in the 2-hour video, no evidence of anybody screaming, "Build that wall." Not one. Now, am I saying that Mr. Phillips lied? No. What I am saying is that people lie and people can misrepresent the truth. People can fail to adequately and specifically recall something that has happened, which is why things like eyewitness testimony often are difficult to corroborate in court cases, because human beings, an anthropologist once said, are a species with amnesia. We have a terrible ability to recall most things. We're very, very, flawed in that way. That's one of our many, 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 many flaws. So did he lie or did he misrepresent the truth? I don't know. I do know that he's a human and that people can do that. He is a human being, a dignified, resilient, and respectable human being who has the ability to, just as I do, to misconstrue something or to get it wrong. There doesn't seem to be evidence that anybody was chanting, "Build the